The pre-dawn chill bit through my thin chiton, raising goosebumps despite the press of bodies around me. But it could have been just as easily the nerves roaring through my mind, because this was the legendary Great Dionysia. Years of training, scraping by of whispers and dreams, all for this moment. From my spot backstage, I could hear the murmur of the crowd, a restless, living thing filling the theater of Dionysus. Thousands upon thousands of Athenian citizens, their breaths mingling with the incense smoke, all eyes fixed on that sacred space. The air hummed with anticipation, thick with the multitude of scents that came from preparation for the day's festivities and of the faint, sweet promise of sacrifice. I ran a trembling hand over the smooth, cool surface of my mask. The stylized grief of a man etched with the weight of 100 sorrows. Every crease, every painted tear a testament to the character I was about to embody. Soon this painted clay would be on my face, this borrowed voice my own resonating through the vast amphitheater. Soon I would go into the light, shed my own skin, and become another. I would shed the aches in my knees, the gnawing hunger in my gut, the anxieties of my own meager life, and become a vessel for something grander. And for a few fleeting hours, under the watchful gaze of Dionysus, I would live and die 1,000 times for them, the collective catharsis of this city. The aulos player began a low, mournful tune, a reedy wail that seemed to carry the weight of the ages. Then the drums joined, a rhythmic thrum against the rising sun, mirroring the frantic beat of my own heart. This was more than mere performance. It was a sacred ritual, a communion with an unseen God that surrounded all of us, connected us with the shared experience. The choregos gave a silent nod, and his eyes alight with a mixture of excitement and solemnity. My cue. My blood surged, a roaring current in my ears. The stage awaited. It was time to be reborn. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Brandon, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. So this time we're going to pick up where we left off. We're moving on from the murky past of the Minoan, Mycenaean, and Archaic Greek periods into the more classical ones that many of us are familiar with. What better place to start than the granddaddy of ancient Greece, Athens? So, Athens was a major center of ancient Greek life and worship, while Thebes held the unique distinction of being Dionysus' birthplace in myth. Athens embraced the god with an unparalleled fervor, guys, particularly in the realm of the arts and civic festivals. The relationship between Dionysus and Athens was a dynamic and transformative one, shaping the city's cultural identity and leaving an enduring legacy on Western civilization. I'm going to move on now to Athens, which was another major center of Greek life and worship. Thebes held the unique distinction of being Dionysus' birthplace and myth, but Athens embraced the god with an unparalleled fervor, particularly in the realm of arts and civic festivals. The relationship between Dionysus and Athens was a dynamic and transformative one, shaping the city's cultural identity and leaving an enduring legacy on Western civilization. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Athens is known for two things: democracy and theater. Right?
Absolutely it is.
Yeah. So, unlike the deeply impersonal familial connection of the Thebans to Dionysus through his birth, Athens adopted and integrated the worship of Dionysus into its civic and religious fabric in a grand and public manner. While the myths of Dionysus' interactions with early Athens are less central than his Theban origin, Athenians recognized and celebrated his multifaceted nature, particularly his association with wine, ecstasy, and of course most significantly, the dramatic arts. Athenian worship of Dionysus was characterized by elaborate public festivals and a profound connection to the development of theater. The most famous of these was the city Dionysia. This was the most significant festival dedicated to Dionysus in Athens. Held in the spring, it was a grand multi-day event that integrated religious processions, sacrifices, dithyrambic contests, and which is, we'll just say it's drinking contests,
Mm-hmm.
beer pong. Their equivalents of beer pong. They actually had
Beer
something
pong.
very no, for real. They actually had this game that was kind of like that, and I would hate to be the housewife because they were already terrible in Athens to their women, and these were the ones who had to clean this mess up. But essentially, the guys would all get together. They'd be on like chaise lounges in that chaise loungy position, and
Mm-hmm.
they had this like little thing that had Dionysus on it. It was like this little dish, and the goal was to take your really wide brimmed plate shaped wine glass full of wine and try to toss it into this little dish without getting on the floor
Oh my gosh.
in that position. So that's just one of those games. And they're
Yep.
really, really popular. They're very popular in symposia and things as well, which are more like private, like house parties, that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm just thinking, God, that it had to be the women in the house, or if they were lucky, slaves who had to clean up this nonsense, and they weren't even
Mm-hmm.
allowed to be a part of the fun.
Nope.
Um, but back to this. So, and of course, most famously, dramatic competitions featuring tragedies and comedies. The festival was a major civic and a religious occasion, showcasing Athenian wealth, piety, and artistic prowess. It was the very structure of Athenian democracy was intertwined with these festivals, as prominent citizens often served as chorogai, or oh god, chorogi, chirogoi, chirogoi,
Rogoi.
chirog, chirogoi. That's what we're going with. Chirog. Oh my god, chirog. They were judges. They
Yep.
were judges, guys. Funding the theater. Oh man, even that I got it wrong. They were like judge. It's like a combination of like judge and producer,
Mm-hmm.
and they funded the theatrical productions. Another important Athenian festival honoring Dionysus, the Lenaea, took place in late winter. While less grand than the city Dionysia, it also featured dramatic performances, often of a more experimental or less formally structured nature. The Lenaea played a crucial role in the development of comedy. And of course, there was celebrations that happened outside of the metropolitan area of Athens, celebrated in various demes or villages or districts of the Attic countryside during the winter months. The rural Dionysia were more localized and likely retained older, more rustic forms of the Dionysian worship. These festivals often involved processions with phallic symbols, as parades, if you will, wine drinking contests, and informal dramatic performances. They highlight the god's connection to agricultural cycle and the local communities of Attica. Surprising no one, as the god of wine, Dionysus was regularly honored with libations of, you guessed it, wine. This was poured onto earth or altars. Offerings of grapes, ivy, and other plants associated with him would also have been common at his sanctuaries during festivals. Similar to other parts of Greece, Athens also likely hosted Dionysian mystery cults, offering initiates a more personal and potentially ecstatic experience of the divine. While details of these Dionysian mysteries are less well documented than those elsewhere, their existence is probable given to the broader trends of Greek religious practice.
Absolutely. And they existed. I've read quite a bit on them. They're really interesting.
Yeah. I feel like Athens was like the place to go, especially by Roman times, like the place. Oh, you're in a mystery cult? It's from Athens,
Oh, always.
like
The Illuminati, Athens. We got you.
it's like Hadrian. Where do you go for the mystery cult? Athens.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Caligula, Athens. Mark Antony, Athens. It's just
And they
like
all
it's
do.
always like, and they went to the mystery cult in Athens.
Hmm.
So
I mean, it makes sense. So Athens also boasts significant archaeological remains that attest to the central role of Dionysus in the city's life. Located on the southern slope of the Acropolis, the Theater of Dionysus is perhaps the most iconic archaeological site associated with Dionysus in Athens. Originally a simple open-air space, it evolved over centuries into a grand stone theater that could seat thousands. Like, put that into perspective for yourself. open air
Mm-hmm.
theater could seat thousands. That
Yeah,
is
it's like those like
amazing.
yeah, yeah, and I'm thinking like think like Woodstock, guys, or like if
Mm-hmm.
you happen to have like those like we kind of have one around here in Canandaigua. I've been to one for a couple concerts actually out in Massachusetts near like Foxborough and all that. Where they have like these open air amphitheaters. Maybe there's some light coverings and stuff, with poles or whatever. But like, yeah, you're just like out in the woods, man, and you're in this like really it's both grand but intimate space.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so it was the primary venue for the dramatic competitions of the city Dionysia and the Linnea, making it a profoundly sacred space dedicated to the god of theater. The remains of the theater, including the orchestra, the circular space where the chorus performed, and the foundations of the stage, are still visible today, which we're going. I don't care when,
I
but
know.
we're going
I
because I need to
guess
see
we also have
this.
to go here, guys. I guess we'll go to Naxos. I guess we'll
It's
go to Athens.
it's
It'll
required.
be a bummer, but we'll do it for you.
Oh yes, absolutely. So this was a powerful reminder of the Athenian contribution to the dramatic art in honor of Dionysus. So this stuff happened because of Dionysus. And I
Hmm.
love that they attribute it to him and saying like, we couldn't have done it without you. You were the inspiration. You are the one that brought it here. So there it is. And
Hmm.
honestly, just because of what we know of Greek culture, I love that. I really, really do.
Hmm.
Situated adjacent to the theater of Dionysus, the remains of the sanctuary of Dionysus Euth- Eu-
Ooh,
Eleutherius?
serious.
Eleutherius. I almost had it. Have also been excavated. It was dedicated to Dionysus, Eleutherius, the Dionysus who comes to liberate. Legend states that the cult statue of this Dionysus was brought to Athens from the town of Eleuthery, at the border of Attica and Boeotia, and its arrival was associated with the end of a plague. The sanctuary housed a temple, altars, and other structures associated with the god's worship. It's associated with the arrival of the cult statue, and the end of the plague highlights Dionysus's role as a bringer of liberation and healing. The temple would have housed the cult statue and served as a focal point for the religious rituals and processions. Its proximity to the theater underscores the close physical and symbolic link between Dionysus and dramatic performances in Athens.
And
While the
I just
ex-
want to say too,
Go for it.
sorry, I was going to just say really quick, like, that's something too that I really love this. Like, it's very poetic. The idea as a god of liberation, right? Of
Hmm.
revolution. And you, sometimes a government or a society is sick. And after revolution, it can heal, can
Yes,
move on. And so like it's not just about upending everything for the sake of upending everything. And we deal with this now in our own culture. It's so many people are scared of like and like push back and go like lean hard into like hard conservative ways and things like that, because they're afraid of that change for the sake of change. But change can also be a like this desire for change usually comes from something.
hmm
And sometimes the only way we can move on is to
revolution.
completely change. Right. And personally too, like, if you're in your life just stuck,
Hmm.
you know, sometimes you need to completely upheave everything. Have a
You do.
personal revolution to begin to heal,
Absolutely. And
So I think that's great.
what I call it actually is so revolution is societal surgery to remove the cancerous tumors. That's what it is.
Hmm.
It hurts just like a surgery
Revolution can
does.
go too far,
It can go too far, just
but
like surgeries can go too far. But it is there
like the
to remove those
revolution
aspects that cause harm.
have a firm, I kind of feel like too with like this concept, before we go back on topic a little bit, like when you see extreme revolution in history, like when you're talking about like France, like the French Revolution, the Haitian Revolution, the people who were oppressed, it's not like it came out of nowhere. They had been asking for a long time
Mm-hmm.
for shit to change.
And
And
it just
then it
didn't.
just kept being ignored. It kept getting pushed down until finally it couldn't anymore. And like the
Hmm.
longer you do that, the longer you hold back the things that need to change and don't do anything because you're afraid that you'll screw it up, it just ends up you get the equal reaction of all that being pent up. And
Absolutely.
like there were some atrocities that happened in those revolutions, like people who died who did not deserve to die. Um, but again, if they had acknowledged these things and done something about them long beforehand, over time, if there was going to be that revolution, it probably wouldn't have been so severe.
No, it wouldn't have
So,
been. It's just like anything else. The more pressure you exert on something, it's likely going to pop. Like, it's just going
mm-hmm,
to happen. That is the reality of the world. The more you press down, the more it's going to hurt when it presses back. I like to relate it also to a pendulum swing. Gravitation will pull it right back at you. So be careful where you're
mm-hmm,
stomping.
mm-hmm.
So, while the exact location of the Leonion, the sanctuary where the Lanaya festival was primarily held, is debated, archaeological evidence suggests that it was likely located in the Agora, or a nearby area. Its existence further highlights the dedicated spaces within Athens for the worship of Dionysus and the performance of dramatic arts in his honor. While perhaps not a grand temple in the traditional sense, the Lanaion was a significant sanctuary dedicated to Dionysus, particularly associated with the Lanaya festival and the early development of comedy. It would have housed altars and possibly smaller structures for ritual and performance. And while less definitively identified, it's likely that other smaller shrines or precincts dedicated to different aspects of Dionysus, for example, Dionysus of the Winepress, Dionysus of the Groves, existed throughout Athens, reflecting the diverse ways in which the Athenians connected with the god. Because he had many aspects, he has many faces. And so
Yeah.
because of that, choose which face you're representing. So the presence of numerous votive offerings suggests a widespread and personal devotion that might have been expressed in various localized shrines.
Archaeological excavations throughout Athens have yielded numerous votive offerings dedicated to Dionysus, including terracotta figurines depicting the god, satyrs, and maenads, as well as pottery associated with wine consumption, such as craters, mixing bowls, kyllikes, drinking cups. These finds, scattered across various sites, demonstrate the widespread veneration of Dionysus by the Athenian population. Fragments of architectural sculpture and inscriptions bearing dedications to Dionysus have also been discovered, further attesting to the presence of temples and sanctuaries dedicated to the god within the city. Athens was home to several significant temples and sanctuaries dedicated to Dionysus, reflecting the importance of Dionysus to ancient Athens, who was profound and deeply interwoven with the city's cultural and religious identity. More than just the god of wine, Dionysus embraced the patron arts, particularly drama, and his festivals became central civic events that showcased Athenian creativity and piety. The archaeological remains, most notably the Theater of Dionysus and the Sanctuary of Dionysus, Eleutherius, stand as enduring testaments to the city's devotion. Athens, in its embrace of Dionysus, not only honored a powerful deity, but laid the foundations for Western tradition and a legacy that continues to resonate today. The Athenian relationship with Dionysus was a dynamic interplay between religion and devotion, artistic innovation, civic pride, solidifying his place as a vital and transformative force within the ancient city. And just a little side note, we also have to remember a little thing about Dionysus. He was the foreign god. And Athens, in particular, had a very interesting dynamic with its own foreign people. He would have not only been heavily celebrated by the Athenians, but he would have been heavily celebrated by those same foreigners, who would have been one of the few occasions where they were allowed to participate in the same festivals as citizens of Athens.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, breaking down those social barriers. And I just think it's great. It's beautiful.
It is. It really is. And now we are going to go from Athens all the way to Rome. So now
Rome.
we will cross the Adriatic Sea to the Italian peninsula to explore the adoption and adaptation of the Greek god Dionysus by the Romans, where he became known primarily as Bacchus. While the foundational myths of his birth were Greek, the Romans' embrace of Bacchus, particularly through the Bacchanalia, took on its own distinct character, marked by periods of fervent and sometimes excessive celebration, ultimately leading to a dramatic confrontation with Roman authority. The arrival of Dionysian cults in Rome was a gradual process, influenced by contact with Greek colonies in southern Italy and the broader Hellenistic world. Initially, Bacchus may have been viewed as a foreign deity, but his associations with wine, revelry, and the liberation of inhibitions resonated with certain segments of Roman society. Over time, his worship gained traction, evolving into what became known as the Bacchanalia.
Roman worship of Bacchus, particularly in the form of Bacchanalia, developed in its own unique characteristics, sometimes diverging significantly from the more established Greek Dionysian rites. Initially, the Bacchanalia in Rome seemed to have been relatively small and secretive affair, often associated with women. These early rites likely involved private gatherings, offerings to the god, and perhaps more controlled forms of ecstatic expression. As the cult spread, the Bacchanalia grew in scale and intensity. Celebrations became more frequent, involving a larger number of participants, both men and women, and extending over long periods of time. The atmosphere reportedly became increasingly frenzied, with copious consumption of wine, wild dancing, and that blurring of social distinctions under the influence of the god, which is a big no-no in Rome. It was a
Yes,
big no-no in Greece. It
but it
was a
was a
much
bigger
bigger
no-no
no-no
in
in
Rome.
Rome.
Yep.
Like, in Greece, again, it was not a monolith. Fun fact, the term Greece, you'll know, oh, they wouldn't have called themselves Greeks. True. But comes Magna Graecia, that was the island of Sicily. So then when Rome took over Sicily and then later, quote unquote, Greece, they just took the name of the people that they knew, just applied it to all of those other people. That'd be like if someone invaded New York City and then just decided to label America as New York.
How silly.
Like it's weird, but like that's kind of what happened.
Mhm.
Um, they would have called themselves Hellenes, but within Hellenic culture, um, the treatment of women and things like that varied wildly from community to community. Like the image that we tend to have in our head that's really heavily patriarchal, that came a lot from Athens, right? And Athens was prolific. If they're doing all the writing, that's the only things we're seeing.
Mhm.
But as many people will attest to, Spartan women had, in some senses, a lot more rights. They had like rights to own property, to speak their minds on how they raise their kids, to train alongside men within certain situations. I mean, there was a separation, don't get me wrong, but, women were expected to be strong and things like that. There was some misogyny involved with that strength because it's about rearing babies, but still, at least they were allowed to get out of the house.
Yes.
So in Rome, though, they took that stuff from Athens and like cranked it up to an 11. Roman women, the ideal Roman woman was silent and happy to be abused. Like, do what you will with me. I have no feelings. Right. And if you as a man wanted the advice and opinion of a woman, there's something wrong with you. So in these
Yep.
festivals where women might be the head priestesses and like men were listening and being influenced by these women, and some of these men were slaves and foreigners interacting with Roman women. Like, no, 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 no. Um, as an empire, because it's problematic, you can't have these people who are the other all communicating with each other because then they might get ideas.
Mhm.
So it's something to keep in mind. Like their Greek counterparts, though, Roman devotees of Bacchus often wore masks and elaborate costumes, further contributing to the sense of anonymity and temporary suspension of social norms during these rituals. Animal skins, ivy wreaths, and other Dionysian symbols were common attire. The pursuit of ecstasis, standing outside of oneself, remained a central element. Wine played a significant role in achieving this state, as did the rhythmic music of drums, cymbals, and flutes, and vigorous and often unrestrained dancing, as it had always happened.
Yep.
It was the increasingly secretive and nocturnal nature of the Bacchanalia, coupled with the rumors of immoral behavior, ritualized violence, and even political conspiracies that occurring under the cover of religious observance that ultimately led to the Roman Senate intervention in 186 BC. These accounts, whether entirely accurate or exaggerated by fear and suspicion, painted a picture of a cult that had spiraled out of control. And to their defense, a little later on, there's a little man called Spartacus. And in the name Dionysus, because supposedly the Thracian lady was a priestess of Dionysus, and he was chosen by Dionysus to lead this huge slave revolt. It wasn't an unreasonable fear they had. It did eventually kind of become that. And whether that was justified or not, that's a different story.
No, and it wasn't until they put pressure on them, honestly. And it's like one of those very cautionary tales of like, you think I'm the bad guy? Beautiful, I will become that bad guy.
To be fair, the Romans didn't really learn the lesson. They were like, we just got to be better at suppressing these people.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you didn't punish them hard enough. And it's just that you're dumb.
It's like you didn't punish them hard enough, and you didn't reward other ones good enough. And God, you let them sleep with women. Nope, we're going to separate them now.
Exactly. It's just
it kind of worked.
It did.
Yeah, I know.
It did, and I hate that it did. Yeah. So archaeological evidence.
Don't really hear about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, damn Roman suppression. So.
Fuck the patriarchy.
True. Archaeological evidence directly and definitively linked to the Bacchanalia and Rome itself is somewhat limited, largely due to the suppression of the cult and the potential destruction of related sites. However, broader Roman art and artifacts offer insights into the presence and perception of Bacchus. Roman art is replete with images of Bacchus, often depicted as a youthful, effeminate figure or of a more mature and bearded god, along with his retinue of satyrs, maenads, often romanized as bacchantes. I said that right. Bacchantes?
Mm-hmm.
Or bacchantes? Whatever. I'm going to take more of the 1950s route and just bacchantes. No, but...
I love that.
Like, let's be real. He would absolutely go with that, though. He absolutely would.
But it would make the Romans so mad that they were like, arm in arm, kicking it.
Absolutely.
With their legs showing.
It would piss him off, which makes me want to do it even more.
Your husband, damn it.
But he had all the symbols, the satyrs, the maenads, and symbols like the grapevines, thyrsus staffs, and wine vessels. These depictions found in frescoes, mosaics, sculptures, and on sarcophagi attest to the god's popularity and integration into Roman visual culture, albeit often within a more decorative or mythological context after the crackdown. Because we can't have nice things. Yay.
Nope.
So while located outside of Rome itself, the frescoes in the Via of the Mysteries in Pompeii are perhaps the most famous visual representation of Dionysian Bacchic rites in the Roman world. These elaborate paintings dated to before the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD, depict a series of rituals that scholars interpret as initiation ceremonies into a Dionysian mystery cult. The imagery includes figures engaged in ecstatic dances, the serving of wine, and symbolic representations of the god and his entourage, offering a glimpse into the private and potentially transformative aspects of Bacchic worship. Inscriptions dedicated to Bacchus have been found in Rome and throughout the Roman Empire, indicating the presence of devotees and the establishment of cult associations, even after the senatorial decree. Wow, I wanted to conflate G's and C's. Go figure.
It's okay.
These inscriptions often invoke Bacchus with various epithets and provide evidence of organized worship. And so it's honestly from Rome that we do get the negative perspective of a cult, even though all of these, like, all gods had their own cults. Let's be super real.
Well, also it's where we get the image of the jolly, fat, on-time god. They really wanted to sanitize him. None of this revolution stuff. None of the secretive stuff. You want him, if you're going to worship him, you have to ask for permission. If you're going to worship him, it's only the fun stuff that we like.
Exactly.
And within reason. And even then, it's like he's that, like, silly one of the Olympians. He's the silly one. You know, the fun. That oaf, you know, which is completely
not what he was. No, and all I can think of is the 1950s Fantasia, the Disney Fantasia, where they were depicting Bacchus. Exactly, because that's pretty much the Roman depiction of him, which is this just fat, drunk, jolly old man. It's like, that's not what he was at all.
Well, then the Christians picked it up later. And they also were not looking to make Dionysus, a competitor, look good. So they kill two birds with one stone. They pick a pagan god, so they're trying to make pagans look bad, as like, look at you worshiping these fat, silly, ridiculous gods, specifically also Dionysus. So well into the arts, like when you see like the Renaissance and stuff, Bacchus is usually, again, depicted as sometimes youthful, but usually no matter what, jovial, half in the bag. He's not one to be taken seriously. You know? And that continues like right into the modern era with Disney and all that. Like
it does. It does.
That's why we question our sources, right? Because we were like, well, that's the way he's always been predicted. That's the way he's always been depicted. Yeah, but
history is written by the victors. History is written by the victors and how they want to frame it. Right. So no, the fuck it isn't. But all right. So while specific, definitively identified temples dedicated solely to the Bacchanalia in Rome before its suppression are scarce in the archaeological world. It's likely that sacred groves or informal sanctuaries existed where the early rites took place. The secretive nature of the cult would have favored such less formal settings, but later, after the restrictions, more controlled temples and shrines dedicated to Bacchus would have been established.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those temples that would pop up later. Despite the initial suppression, the worship of Bacchus did persist in Rome, albeit under stricter regulations, as we were talking about earlier. Evidence suggests that the existence of the temples and sanctuaries dedicated to him after the Bacchanalia fair. While the exact location and grandeur are debated, ancient sources indicate existence of temples dedicated to Bacchus in Rome after the Senate decree. These would have been more controlled and publicly sanctioned sites of worship. Vitruvius, the Roman architect, even mentions specific architectural considerations for the temples of Bacchus, knowing their smaller scale compared to the temples of more prominent Olympian deities. Again, we're making him small. We're making him not as loud. He's not the one to be taken seriously.
Nope.
There is also an inscription that mentions a temple of Bacchus located outside of the Porta Portis gate in Rome. This suggests that the worship of Bacchus continued in the city's vicinity, perhaps in a more regulated manner. Over time, Bacchus became more increasingly integrated into other Roman religious practices and associations. He's often linked with Ceres and Liber, in agricultural cults, highlighting his connection to fertility and the bounty of the earth. The story of Dionysus, or Bacchus in Rome, is a fascinating tale of cultural exchange, adaptation, and the tension between religious fervor and state authority. While the ecstatic excesses of early Bacchanalia led to dramatic crackdown, the worship of Bacchus did not disappear. Instead, it evolved, becoming more integrated into the Roman religious landscape, albeit under stricter control. The artistic depictions and evocative frescoes in Pompeii and later established temples and inscriptions all attest to the enduring presence of the wine god in Roman life. The Roman experience with Bacchus serves as a compelling example of how foreign deities could be both embraced and regulated within the complex religious fabric of the Roman world, leaving a lasting mark on their culture and mythology.
So, I'm going to, in an allegory, instead of being boiled alive by Roman stricture, Bacchus became tea, and he started to change the landscape around him. Instead of being changed by the water, he changed the water to wine. So, again, haha, Jesus reference.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, like I think if they had been able to squash it and get rid of him, they would have.
But they couldn't.
Damn well knew they couldn't.
They couldn't.
They couldn't.
Because he is human behavior. Bacchus, honestly, in my opinion, is the god of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But
exactly. And it's a primal thing.
It is. It is. And like, you can't squash that aspect of humanity. You can try. It's just like, if somebody is in the middle of a nervous breakdown and they're crying, you can be like, stop crying. I order you to stop crying. Is that going to be functional? Is that going to work? It's like, or are they going to cry harder? It's like...
Or they'll suppress it and it turns into something else.
Yeah, and if they suppress it and it turns into something else, you might be in a huge trouble. But... So other areas...
Like, crap. We can't tell them not to cry. We have to tell them, just don't cry so much.
You can cry a little bit, but only right now, and then maybe a little bit tomorrow.
You can cry with our supervision.
Oh, okay. Have to be supervised while crying. Excellent. Love that for us. That's the best.
Oh my god, it's such a weird picture. It's like Augustus.
True.
It's like lady who wants to cry in Augustus is just sitting there with his little toga, his twink self, just like staring at her, legs crossed, like, I'm waiting.
I can't cry with you looking at me like that.
Oh, good. I guess you didn't need to cry.
We go off on the weirdest tangents. I swear to God.
But it's not out of character for him.
No, it's not. But let's get back to it.
For sure.
Oh, God, yes. Let's get back to it. So, other areas around the ancient world. Of course, the reach of Dionysus extended far beyond the Greek peninsula. Through trade, colonization, and cultural exchange, his worship spread throughout the Mediterranean and into regions further east. In these new lands, the core aspects of his cult, the association with wine, ecstatic practices, and theatrical expression, often intertwined with local beliefs and traditions, resulting in unique regional variations. So one being Thrace and Phrygia, modern-day Bulgaria and Turkey, the gods' homeland. Many ancient sources, including Euripides, suggest that Dionysus himself originated from Thrace or Phrygia in Anatolia. These regions were known for their wild landscapes and ecstatic religious practices, making them a plausible origin point for a god associated with such untamed energy. Archaeological and literary evidence points to the existence of ecstatic cults in Thrace and Phrygia that predate or were closely related to the Greek worship of Dionysus. These often involved nocturnal rituals, the wearing of animal skins, and frenzied dances in the mountains. Sign me up. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I do think it's a little weird because, Euripides writes the Bacchae, and the whole thing, it says mom's from Thebes. Yeah, it's like, but but he's not. But Dionysus is not from Thebes. That doesn't that doesn't make sense to me.
It
It's
doesn't.
like I feel like you're like there's plot hole here, but whatever.
Question mark, how is this related? But okay.
Is he from
So,
Greece or not?
who knows? Is he from anywhere?
No.
Or did he just sprout up one day and is like, hi, I'm Dionysus, and Zeus was like, you came from my nutsack. I don't know.
After I burned your mom.
I burned your mom by her just looking at my awesomeness.
because I promised her I'd do anything.
Oh my gosh. We're getting ecstatic now. We have to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
So, the mythical Maenads were often associated with these northern regions, further solidifying the connection to a wider, more primal form of Dionysian worship. In Phrygia, a similar deity named Sabazios was worshipped, often associated with ecstatic dances and the natural world. Over time, Sabazios became increasingly syncretized with the Greek Dionysus, particularly in the Hellenistic and Roman periods, often depicted with similar attributes like the thyrsus and animal companions. Inscriptions and artwork from these regions often show this blended deity, which it happens in different regions. It happens. So, archaeological discoveries in Thrace and Phrygia, such as elaborate gold and silver vessels used for wine consumption and ritualistic objects adorned with Dionysian imagery, vines, satyrs, and animal motifs, provide tangible evidence of the god's importance in these areas. Tombs and sanctuaries dedicated to deities with Dionysian characteristics have also been unearthed. So, like, from life and death, like, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit of him was just there.
And that idea of rebirth, too. Again, it's like, I feel like there's that connection, too. Like, your relative's gone, and your devotional offerings just happen to be of a god who's also known for being a god of resurrection, and this idea of life after death.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And hoping you have a good time.
I mean, I would hope that everyone had a good time. It's Dionysus. Unless you rejected him. And then you're in trouble. But I digress. So, another area. Southern Italy and Sicily. Magna Graecia. So, a very fertile ground for Dionysus. As, it's a wine country.
Mm-hmm.
It's not surprising that the Greek colonies of Magna Graecia in southern Italy and Sicily were particularly fertile ground for the worship of Dionysus. These regions were such rich vineyards and maintained strong cultural ties with the Greek mainland. For a time, Dionysian cults also thrived in cities like Pompeii, Herculaneum on the mainland. The Villa of the Mysteries in Pompeii, with its vivid frescoes depicting Dionysian initiation rites, stands as a powerful testament to the intense and mystical aspects of the worship in this region. And while maintaining core Greek elements, the worship of Dionysus in Magna Graecia likely incorporated local Italic traditions and deities. The blending of Greek and indigenous beliefs was a common phenomenon in the colonies. The abundance of wine-related artifacts, theatrical structures, many Greek colonies boasted impressive theaters, and artwork depicting Dionysian scenes in southern Italy and Sicily underscores the god's widespread popularity and cultural significance. Sanctuaries and temples dedicated to Dionysus and related deities have also been discovered.
So, moving on to Egypt, the arrival of the Hellenistic rule in Egypt under the Ptolemies led to the introduction and integration of Greek deities, including Dionysus, into the Egyptian pantheon. So despite what Herodotus says, it was probably the other way around. The Greeks identified Dionysus with the Egyptian god Osiris, who was also associated with wine, fertility, and resurrection. This synchronism facilitated the acceptance of Dionysus by the Egyptian population. Festivals honoring both deities often became intertwined. Alexandria and other Greek settlements in Egypt became centers for the worship of the Dionysus-Osiris grand processions and celebrations, often incorporating the Egyptian elements, which were held in his honor. Archaeological discoveries in Egypt from the Hellenistic and Roman periods revealed depictions of Dionysus alongside Egyptian motifs and inscriptions referencing to the syncretic deity. Wine production was also significant in Egypt during this time, further solidifying the association with Dionysus. So finally, we're going to go and move down to the Levant, or over, I guess, to the Levant.
Mm-hmm.
The Levant is a region with a long history of cultural exchange. Also saw the adaptation of Dionysian worship. Following the consequences of conquests, well, I mean consequences too, but conquests, the consequences of the conquest of Alexander the Great, Hellenistic culture spread throughout the Levant, bringing the Greek pantheon, including Dionysus. Now, I'm just going to say this too, though, like the Phoenicians had been there for a while, and of course, fun little fact, the Greek alphabet was inspired by the Phoenician one. So, like, there was probably already some cultural exchange going on with some of that. But this definitely would have pushed it forward. The Levant was already a region with ancient winemaking traditions, making the association with Dionysus a natural fit. Local wine deities and agricultural festivals likely merged with the Greek cult. In some areas, Dionysus may have been synchronized with the local fertility and storm gods, like Baal Hadad, reflecting the god's association with natural forces and abundance. Archaeological sites in the Levant from the Hellenistic and Roman periods have yielded evidence of Dionysian worship, including mosaics, sculptures, and inscriptions. Wine presses and storage facilities from this era also point to the importance of wine in local economy and religious practice. The Grand Theater at Beth Shehan, or the most metal name ever, Scythopolis. Like,
I mean,
what are they doing there?
Yes, that's amazing.
Scythopolis. Come to the Scythopolis. In modern-day Israel, Hellenistic foundation later expanded by the Romans is a testament to the importance of Dionysian theatrical culture in the region.
Mm-hmm. So, in conclusion, the worship of Dionysus in its various forms demonstrates the remarkable adaptability and appeal of the multifaceted god. From the wild mountains of Thrace to the fertile plains of Italy, the rich Nile Valley, and the cultural crossroads of the Levant, Dionysus resonated with diverse populations, often blending seamlessly with local traditions and leaving behind a rich tapestry of archaeological and textural evidence. His journey beyond mainland Greece and Rome underscores the power of cultural exchange and the enduring human fascination with wine, ecstasy, and the transformative power of the divine. Next time we will dive into the mystery cults associated with our body god, so stay tuned for that.
Now, as you know, we are a new podcast. We are always looking to please the dark magic that is the algorithm. So wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take time to give us a positive review. It goes a long way for us.
We will also be starting a Patreon soon as we have enough content in the backlog. There you can hear episodes of topics outside of the main purview of the main podcast, create videos, do Q&As, sell merch, and in general, get up to hijinks, so keep an eye out for that.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach us at timetravelersclubpodcast@gmail.com. We love it when people say hi. And as always, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Have a good one, you guys. Bye.